Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're here because today we are decoding the absolute core of business survival. We're looking at the engine of revenue itself, sales management. You can think of a business with a brilliant, innovative product, but a poorly managed sales team, kind of like a Ferrari with no gas in the tank. I mean, it looks incredible, the engineering is flawless, but it is literally not going anywhere. Every single company out there relies on a steady flow of fuel, cash, to keep the lights on and move forward. And how exactly does that happen? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. So I want you to think about this fundamental question for a second. We build these highly skilled departments, right? Human resources, research and development, finance, operations. But what is the single, absolute, only business function that actually brings in revenue? We honestly overlook this basic truth all the time, getting so caught up in the complex, bloated machinery of modern corporate strategy. Yep, the answer is sales. In the entire sprawling scheme of organizational operations, sales is the true income center. Every other department, as incredibly necessary as they are, is essentially a cost center. Without sales, there's no revenue, and without revenue, well, there's no business. It is the lifeblood that sustains literally everything else we do. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll trace the evolution and meaning of sales, separate myth versus reality, look at the mastermind scope, check on the troops, map out the blueprint process, and finish up with modern trends. Okay, Section 1, Evolution and Meaning. Let's trace how this all started. So historically, business was hyper-local. Back in the pre-industrial era, a single artisan made a good and sold it directly to a neighbor. Demand usually outpaced supply, so selling wasn't really a conscious effort. People just bought whatever was available. But then, boom, we hit a massive turning point, the 1760 Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, factories are mass-producing goods at an unprecedented scale. The local village can't possibly absorb all these products, right? So businesses are forced to aggressively hunt for new markets just to offload their surplus. Fast forward to the modern era, and those operations have grown so massive that we now see the strict separation between complex marketing strategies and dedicated sales departments. It essentially created the corporate structure we all recognize today. And because of that evolution, modern sales isn't just a simple transaction anymore. According to the American Marketing Association, it's a deep, strategic management discipline. It's the planning, the direction, the control of selling. It involves rigorous, complex elements like recruiting, selecting, training, and motivating personnel. It's honestly basically HR, psychology, and business strategy all rolled into one highly sophisticated orchestration to drive revenue. Moving right along to Section 2, Myth versus Reality, Selling versus Marketing. This is where we really need to clear up the most common misconception in all of business, confusing marketing with selling. People use these terms interchangeably every single day, but they are totally different beasts. Think of it like this. Marketing makes sure the right people walk into your store. Selling ensures they don't leave empty-handed. Selling is fundamentally narrow in scope. Its viewpoint is heavily focused on the manufacturer's goods, and the price is usually determined by what it costs to make the product. Marketing, on the flip side, is this much wider philosophy. It focuses on satisfying the customer's actual needs, rather than just pushing a product onto them, and the price is ultimately determined by what the consumer is willing to pay. Selling is a crucial tactical part of marketing, for sure, but marketing is the entire overarching strategy. Let's jump to Section 3, the mastermind scope, the actual roles of a sales manager. A sales manager isn't just some cheerleader out on the floor ringing a bell when a deal closes. Their terrain actually covers 6 core areas. They are handling really complex sales forecasting and budgeting, deciding the optimal sales team structure, driving manpower planning and hiring, ensuring rigorous sales training, defining the actual sales areas or territories, and meticulously managing the entire sales force's performance. It is an intensely analytical, operational juggling act. And effectively managing this massive scope matters immensely. Because this is literally how companies survive cutthroat markets. When a sales manager controls those 6 areas effectively, they guarantee the organization actually hits its overarching goals. Their accurate forecasts dictate corporate planning and production. They maximize that critical sales revenue. They foster strong, loyal customer ties, and they optimize distribution channels. Ultimately, they're the ones developing the result-driven sales force that keeps the whole engine running smoothly. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, the troops, the different types of salespersons. So not every salesperson does the same job, simply because buying situations vary wildly. You've got delivery salespeople whose main job is timely, reliable product drop-offs. You have inside order takers, kind of like retail assistants, capturing transactions without heavy persuasion. And then you have outside order takers, responding to field calls. But trust me, the roles get a lot more strategic than just taking simple orders. Let's look at two highly advanced roles to really emphasize the professional nature of modern sales. On one side, we have order creators. These are your missionary sellers. A classic example would be a medical rep talking to a doctor. They aren't closing a direct sale right there in the office. Their mission is to convince the doctor to promote and prescribe their brand to others. On the other side, we have order getters. These are your active closers. They have to comprehend incredibly complex client needs, highlight specific product features, and psychologically persuade the client to make a direct purchase. Both of these roles require intense training and deep insight. It's definitely not just cashier work. All right, Section 5, the blueprint process. How we actually manage this strategically. Getting all these different troops to perform requires a really structured scientific blueprint. This orchestration relies on a continuous three-step strategic loop: devising the program, administering it, and finally, assessment and control. You can't just send salespeople out into the wild, cross your fingers, and hope for the best. Turning a strategy into actual physical cash flow requires this rigorous step-by-step management process. Let's break down the actual reality of these steps. First up is devising. This means intensely scanning the political, technological, and competitive environment so you can set highly realistic sales quotas and design effective territories. Step 2 is administration. This is all about clarity, setting precise job descriptions, establishing recruitment policies, and managing the day-to-day environment of the team. And finally, assessment and control. This is where the manager actively monitors the real implementation on the ground against the goals they set back in Step 1, just making absolutely sure the strategy doesn't veer off course. Now, to maintain strict control over the income center during that assessment step, managers rely on an ultimate toolkit made up of 3 specific methods. Number 1, sales analysis. They break down total sales by territory or product to spot discrepancies and trends. Number 2, cost analysis. They track the actual cost of each salesperson or segment to ensure genuine profitability, not just raw volume. And number 3, behavioral analysis. Because they don't just stare at numbers all day, they evaluate field observations, customer feedback, and job-related behavior to maintain a holistic, high-performance culture. Finally, Section 6, modern trends. How this is all adapting to a VUCA world. We are operating in a VUCA environment today. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Modern sales managers are facing massive, overlapping pressures from every direction. They're dealing with global markets featuring entirely different cultures and laws. They're managing rapid technological advancements where buyers research absolutely everything online long before they ever even speak to a rep. They are leading a highly diverse sales force with completely different generational expectations. And crucially, they're managing omni-channel e-selling, forced to ensure a seamless experience whether a customer buys from a smartphone app, a website, or a physical brick-and-mortar store. Which leaves us with a rather profound question to wrap up our explainer today. As omni-channel e-selling increasingly automates the simple transactions, effectively taking the traditional order taker completely out of the equation, how will the role of the human sales manager evolve to protect a company's ultimate income center? Will the focus shift entirely to complex relationship building and high-level behavioral strategy? It's a truly fascinating question about the enduring need for human connection in a landscape that's getting more digital by the second. Thank you so much for joining me to decode the engine of revenue today, and keep looking for the structure behind the members.